So at this point, we had a quite detailed look at theming. There's just one last theme-related topic I also want to discuss here. And that would be how you can apply a dark theme, or how you can allow the user to switch between a dark and a light theme. Because at the moment we have this light theme with a lot of white in it, and some users might prefer dark mode. Some users might even set dark mode as their intended default in the device settings. Like for example here on Android, where I can search for dark and turn on dark theme. Now my Android phone is in dark mode, but of course my app doesn't care. That's why you might want to provide an alternative dark theme. And for that, to do that, we could create a second color scheme, the dark color scheme. And here, again, we can do this with color scheme from seed, but the seed color I want to use here for my dark mode is now a color, which I also picked in advance, which uses the from ARGB constructor and then values of 255, 599, 125. Of course, again, you can play around with different colors. That's just one color I picked here. And with that dark color scheme set up, we can now also set a second theme on that Material app besides this theme. This is our light mode theme, but we can also now add a dark theme parameter to Material app. And this dark theme parameter can now be used to configure, well, a theme for dark mode. For this, we can again use theme data, and now conveniently, there actually is a dark constructor function which we can use to get a lot of default dark mode settings and configurations so that we don't have to adjust everything manually to get dark mode to work. So we can use this dark theme data constructor function instead. And then here we can again use copy with and apply material 3 by setting this to true. But then here, of course, we can also set our color scheme and set this to the dark color scheme we just created. And with that, we're creating a dark theme here, which can be used as an alternative to the main theme. Of course, that just brings up the question which theme will be used. And this can be controlled with yet another parameter you can set on the Material app. And that would be the theme mode parameter. Theme mode wants a theme mode object, and here you can actually choose from multiple predefined theme mode values. You can, for example, force the app to always run in dark mode or always run in light mode, ignoring what the user might have set up in their system settings. But you can also use theme mode system to take a look at the system settings chosen by a user and apply the appropriate theme. And this is actually the default, so you don't need to set this yourself, but it is worth knowing about this setting. Well, and with that, if you force a reload and you put your phone into dark mode, you should see that dark mode. But here I'm now actually getting an error. And I'm getting an error now because in one of my widgets, in the expenses list widget to be precise, I'm actually referring to the margin setting on my card theme, and I'm telling Dart that this will not be null, when actually now in dark mode, it is null. It is null because in dark mode, I'm not setting that card theme. That is why you should also be careful with using this exclamation mark operator. You instead might want to check whether this is null or not, and then set different horizontal values based on the check result. Here I'll solve the issue by simply copying my card theme from the light theme to the dark theme here, so that I am setting these margins again. And with that, if I force a reload, the error goes away, and you can see I have this dark background color on my scaffold now. You also see that the other styles don't look that great though. And part of the reason for that is that the color scheme we're generating here uses a specific seed color, but the shades and variants that are generated by from seed are actually optimized for light mode. We have to tell our color scheme that the different shades and variants that are generated should be optimized for dark mode. And this can be done by setting the brightness parameter in this fromSeedConstructor function and setting this to brightness dark. And this tells Flutter that this is a color scheme for a dark brightness, so for dark mode in the end. If you now force a reload, this already looks much better because we have this dark app bar, for example. But that being said, the card background color doesn't look that great though. And the reason for that simply is that in the dark theme, I'm currently still using the normal color scheme which I created first for getting the secondary container color of the card theme. And that's the wrong color scheme. Here we want to use the newly created dark color scheme, which takes our dark colors into account. If we save it with that, these expenses already look much better. Now, of course, the buttons here in this modal maybe also don't look that great. And to change those, we can again copy the elevated button theme settings from the light theme, the default theme, and add them to the dark theme. But here, of course, we now also want to use the dark color scheme, which we created, and see how that looks like if we take primary container from there for our dark color buttons. With that, this already looks a bit nicer. Maybe the foreground color should be changed though, and therefore here for the dark theme, for the elevated button theme, we could also add foreground color and set this to K dark color scheme and then on primary container. Because the primary container is the background color, for the foreground color, which colors the content inside of that button, on primary container might make a lot of sense if you consider the name of it, primary container and on primary container. So with that, if we save this, yeah, that definitely looks better. We could also change the color of this text button, but I'm happy with that. And with that, we now also added a dark theme. And indeed, we added it such that the device settings are taken into account. If a user switches back from dark to light mode, our app adjusts accordingly.